Hello everyone, this is Robin,
And Mora,
and we're here at culips.com.
that's CULIPS.com. And you can go to our website and you can become a member and check out our lip service.
And in our lip service, you'll find the transcript and a detailed explanation for this episode. So go check it out.
Yeah. Today's episode is the Chatterbox episode where we talk about cultural things or interesting news that's going on in Canada.
Absolutely. And the first thing we're going to talk about today is something called an urban legend or an urban myth.
Yes, so we're definitely talking about culture today. And after we talk about urban legends or urban myths, we're going to talk about old wives' tales.
Old wives' tales, indeed. And it's a similar sort of thing. It deals with myths once again and stories.
And if you don't know what it is, keep listening and we're going to explain it.
Absolutely. And the last thing we'll talk about today deals with superstitions. It's a big word, superstitions.
Right. So some general superstitions that most Canadians know about and maybe some believe in a little bit.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's start with the first topic, which is urban legends or urban myths. So it's two names for the same thing.
What is an urban legend or an urban myth?
An urban legend is a modern story that's a scary story or a horror story. Most of them are scary, and you usually hear about them from friends. So a friend tells another friend a story, this scary story, and you don't know where it started. You don't know where the story came from.
Okay. So the really scary stories, are they very crazy and absurd stories, or are they believable stories?
Well, they're just a little bit believable and a little bit unbelievable. So you don't know whether they're really true or not.
Okay.
That's the trick. Where might people talk about urban legends or urban myths?
Well, when I was younger, a lot of people would talk about urban legends or urban myths around the campfires. You'd go camping and out in the woods in the dark, underneath the moonlight, you would tell these sorts of stories.
Yeah, because they're scary and it's dark. But I also remember when I was young telling urban legends at school, on the playground with my friends. So really, kids can talk about them anywhere.
And it's important to understand that it's mostly kids that do the talking about this.
Yeah, exactly. But because we were all kids once, we still remember them and know about these urban myths when we grow up.
So, can you tell me a little bit about an urban legend or an urban myth that you came across when you were younger?
Yes, there's one I definitely remember. And I should warn everybody, it's a little bit scary, like we said.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah. So it starts that there is a woman driving home one night all by herself on a country road. And she notices that there's a big truck following her.
Okay.
Yeah. And every couple of minutes, the truck flashes its lights. Right. So this woman starts to get a little bit afraid and worried about this truck that's following her and the driver who's flashing his lights at her.
What did she do?
Well, she gets really nervous. She starts to panic, but she decides to just drive home as fast as she can. And she goes up her street and the truck follows her. And she drives into her driveway and the truck follows her too. And she gets out of her car And the driver of the truck gets out of his car too and starts to follow her, but yells, "Run, run!"
Oh no, why? What happened?
Well, the truck driver was actually trying to help her because there was a strange man in the back seat of her car who wanted to attack her. And the driver was following her because he was trying to help her and protect her. And so every time the guy in the back seat got up, he was holding a knife. And the truck driver saw the knife and flashed his lights. And then the strange man in the back seat, had to hide himself again.
Oh my goodness, that is a very scary story.
But do you believe it's really true, Robin?
I don't know if I believe it. It sounds kind of unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And talking about this story with friends, they've heard stories like this, but not exactly this story, which is another sign that this story is an urban legend because there are many variations of it. There's no news source that talks about this story.
It's widespread. Everyone's heard about it.
Yeah, everyone in Canada probably anyways. Maybe North America too.
All right.
So what about you? Can you think of any urban legends that you knew from when you were a kid?
Well, actually, there was a restaurant in my neighborhood that a lot of people used to go to, and it used to be very popular. But then one day, all of a sudden, it shut down, and we couldn't understand why. But then word started to spread, and people started to talk about how they used to actually cook and serve rats.
You know what's funny? I think I heard the same story about a restaurant in my town.
No.
Yeah,
Seriously.
which makes both of these pretty unbelievable.
They're probably both urban legends.
Yeah, exactly. And if you want to know some more urban legends, you can go to Lip Service and we'll list some more stories that are classified as urban legends.
Definitely, so check it out. One thing we should mention is that there's actually a movie that's called Urban Legends.
Yeah, and in that movie, a lot of these scary stories actually happen.
And you might see, actually, I think there's a scene related to this car thing that you were talking about that's actually put in the film as well.
Yeah, so if you want to learn more about urban legends and you're not too scared, you could watch this movie and find out what some of the North American urban legends are.
But definitely make sure that you're not someone who gets frightened very easily
Yeah, or watch it with a friend during the day.
during the day and sit very close to them.
Okay, so now let's talk about old wives' tales.
Old wives' tales. Okay.
Yeah.
And what are those?
Well, they're a kind of urban legend, but it's not a full story. It's just one sentence, one phrase that gives you some advice. And we don't know necessarily if the advice is good or true or not.
Okay, and these sorts of sayings or expressions or phrases are ones that everyone knows, once again. So just like urban legends, how they're widespread, everyone talks about them, everyone knows them, old wives' tales are similar. Everyone's talked about them and everybody knows about them.
Yeah, and the name is really strange. Old wives' tales. This expression started because traditionally these little stories or expressions were told by old women, so old wives, and tales means stories. So that's where the expression old wives' tales comes from.
Can you give us an example?
The most classic example I can think of is an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
That's a popular one.
Yeah, it even rhymes.
It does. So in that case, you eat an apple and you'll stay healthy.
Yes. Which is probably good advice to eat an apple a day, but it also probably doesn't guarantee you that you'll be healthy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm sure apples don't necessarily cure all diseases.
Yes, yeah. Do you have another old wives' tale?
Well, when I was younger, they used to say, you shouldn't swallow gum because if you did, it would stay in your system for 7 years. It would stay in your stomach for 7 long years.
Yeah, I remember that one too. I think that I was afraid to swallow gum when I was a kid because I thought it would be in my stomach for a really long time. Another one that I remember is don't cross your eyes or they'll stay like that. Yeah. So to cross your eyes is when your eyes kind of look at your nose at the same time. So your eyes are turned inward. Yeah, but that's obviously not true because lots of people cross their eyes when they're making funny faces and nothing happens.
There's also the 5 or 10-second rule. So if you drop some food on the ground, it's safe to eat, but only for 5 to 10 seconds.
Right. So imagine you're enjoying a really delicious piece of cake, but you accidentally drop it. But it's only on the floor for about 3 seconds. So you quickly pick it up. It's okay. It's clean because it was on the floor for less than 5 or 10 seconds.
You know what, Maura? I kind of believe this one.
Yeah?
I think it's actually true, provided that there's nothing dirty on the floor, like dirty socks or shoes. I
Yeah.
think it's pretty safe to eat food.
Yeah. And if it's a really good piece of cake,
It's
Yeah.
worth it. It's definitely worth it.
yeah, there's one more old wives' tale that I want to mention, which is that if you hear ringing in your ears, it means that someone is talking about you.
Seriously.
Yeah, yeah. So suddenly your ear starts making a funny noise kind of inside your ear. That means that someone somewhere is talking about you. And that one's probably not true either.
Probably not.
In fact, people nowadays can say, that's just an old wives' tale. And that actually means that something is not true.
That you should be cautious about believing it. Don't necessarily believe what the person says when they say that.
Yeah, because unfortunately, most old wives' tales aren't actually true. They're fun, but they're not true.
We would actually like to hear from you and to find out in your country what types of old wives' tales exist. So if you could write us in and leave a message on our website, we'd really appreciate that.
Yeah, it's always interesting to know what superstitions or urban legends exist in other cultures and other languages.
Hey, you said the key word for our next category.
Yes, exactly. Superstitions.
Superstitions. Okay.
Now, first, we should probably say that Canadians are generally not really superstitious. We're not seriously superstitious, but we do have some superstitions that most people know and might think about, but only in a fun way. So first, let's define superstitions in case some people don't know what that word is.
Okay. So a superstition is a belief that doesn't really make any sense. It's illogical, it's irrational. It could relate to luck, whether good or bad. But remember, it's irrational. It's not based on science. It's not based on someone's experience. And there's no justification for this belief. For example, one superstition is if a black cat walks in front of your path while you're walking, you will have 7 years bad luck. That's a superstition. Now, if you're a superstitious person, you will believe that.
Actually, that happened to me just a couple weeks ago.
Did it?
Yeah, but I thought, oh, what a cute little black cat.
I changed course. I do not walk across the black cat's path.
That's interesting because I'm really not superstitious, but it sounds like you might be a little bit.
Well, have you been lucky recently?
No, but I haven't been unlucky either.
Okay.
But I actually do have a story. I remember when I was very young, when I was a kid, I accidentally broke a mirror. And to break a mirror is 7 years of bad luck. And I was very upset when this happened. I really believed that I would have 7 years of bad luck. In fact, I think it happened when I was 7 years old because I remember adding 7 plus 7 and thinking that when I was 14, I would finally be free of bad luck.
Well, I hope those 7 years weren't too bad.
No, I think I forgot about it after a week or so.
Okay.
So let's talk about some other superstitions that most Canadians know a little bit about. How about the number 13?
The number 13. This is definitely an unlucky number in North America. You don't want to live on the 13th floor of a building because that'll bring you bad luck. Or on the 13th day, if it happens to fall on a Friday during a month, it's usually not a very good day.
Yeah, I think Friday the 13th definitely creeps people out. There's actually a movie called Friday the 13th, and it's a horror movie.
And again, if you are brave, we recommend that you go and check it out.
But yeah, I think depending how superstitious you are, you might not take the unlucky number 13 very seriously. Like me, I don't take it seriously. But Robin, what about you? How do you feel about the number 13?
Actually, this is one of those superstitions that doesn't bother me so much. I'm not afraid of the 13th day.
Good, I'm glad. Okay, let's talk about one more superstition, and that goes with the expression to knock on wood.
To knock on wood.
So, can you tell us about what this superstition is?
Okay, this one's really, really interesting because for some reason we feel that if we say something, we might jinx it. And what I mean by that is if it's a nice day and you say, oh, wow, the weather has been really nice. By saying that, the weather might all of a sudden turn bad. Why? Because of you. Because you said that the weather was nice. So in order to prevent that, in order to stop the weather from turning bad, we knock on wood.
Yeah, exactly. So sometimes people actually knock on wood like we're doing, and sometimes they say knock on wood, and sometimes they do both.
Sometimes they do both.
Yeah. So for example, I could say, oh, I went for a job interview and it went so well. I really think I'm going to get the job. Knock on wood. Right, because I've said I think I'm going to get the job. It might mean that I won't get the job, so I have to knock on wood.
You have to stop yourself from jinxing it.
Yeah. And this expression actually exists in different forms in many different languages and cultures.
Absolutely. And again, if it exists in your language or in your culture, or if there's a similar expression, write us in and tell us about it. We'd be interested in knowing.
Yeah, definitely. I find that stuff really interesting.
Me too.
Okay, so I think that's about it for our episode. Remember, first we talked about
Urban legends.
right?
And after that, we moved on to old wives' tales.
Yeah, and the last thing we talked about was some general superstitions.
We hope you enjoyed the episode.
And don't forget to go to our website, culips.com. And if you haven't become a member and seen our lip service, think about it because there's a lot of good info in there.
Absolutely. Until next time, this has been Robin.
And Maura.
And we're signing off. Take care, everyone.
Bye.